Welcome to day 215 of our BU 365-day challenge. Sharon Horne-Ellstrom here, and today we're focusing on, and the whole month of August, we're focusing on the confidence area and aspect of our life. I use a 9-part life framework to kind of create some semblance of order in my life, and to plan and to set goals and to be more purposeful in terms of the things that I do and don't do to help me make decisions, etc. So this month we're focusing on the confidence area, which is our 8th area that we've discussed this year so far. And today our topic is, and I'm going to share 12 ways to take the negative and switch it to the positive, or 12 tips to switching the negative to the positive. And I'll share my swish effect, which is probably my favorite way, at the end. And we're going to look at how do we let go of the past, let go of the negative thoughts and feelings and beliefs and things that pop up for us, and replace them with positive, because our mind abhors a vacuum. We as humans don't like vacuums. So if we take something away and stop feeling some way, we have to replace it with something better in order to move in the direction that we want to go with our life. So I'm going to share 12 tips to do that. And then our action item today is going to be to go about and notice when you're feeling negative things, or thinking negative thoughts, or a negative belief is triggered by something that happens in your environment. Maybe it's something you see, smell, taste, touch, experience. You know, every day we have like 80,000 some thoughts. Now, I don't know if that's true or not, but supposedly scientists much wiser than I have done studies and determined that the average human thinks 80 or 85,000 thoughts a day. The vast majority of those are negative. Why? Because most of our life we've been surrounded by and conditioned with the negative, because our reptilian brain wants to keep us safe, and that means it warns us against everything. And I have been reminded of that with the birth of my grandchildren. I was a terrible, I forgot about it, but every possible emergency, every what if, anything bad that could happen from any activity, safety first was my motto with the kids growing up. And I was always warning them, and I was probably a worrier mom, but I was always thinking about what could happen and what can we do to make sure that it doesn't. And I do the same thing with my granddaughters, which now drives my children crazy. And I see why. My sisters used to tease me about it when I was raising my kids. And now to be able to step back and have a little bit different perspective on it, it's ridiculous. So that's one thing, looking at the negative, that I am turning to a positive. But I'm still going to be cautious and watch out for my granddaughters, just like I still do my kids. So what are these 12 tips for changing a negative to a positive? It's really easy. We actually have 100% complete control over, believe it or not, lots of times if you would have asked me 30 years ago, I probably would have said, no, I don't believe that. I don't think that's true. But over years of studying and learning and experience, I found that it's absolutely true, whether I want to admit it or not. When something happens, it just happened. I can't change it because it already happened, but I can always choose what I'm going to think about it, what I'm going to feel about it, how I'm going to respond to it. Those are my 3 points of power. And if I think about it negatively, chances are I'm going to believe something negative, and I'm going to respond in a way that's not best for me. It's probably going to be negative. To me, my definition of negative and positive is, negative is not for me, positive is for me. And again, that'll be slightly different for each and every one of us. But I learned a technique that I'll share after I share these 12 tips that works for me every time. And actually there's 2. I was only going to share one, but I've talked about the other one before, so I'm going to share that as well today. And then for our action, we're just going to pay attention today to when we experience something negative and whether we turn it to something positive or not. It's always our choice. And we're going to practice doing that, because awareness is the first step of changing anything we want to change in our lives. So what are these 12 tips to change a negative to a positive? Grab my magnifying glass, see if I can read my notes. Number 1, start a journal. Start a journal. Start keeping track. One really easy action item you can do today, or do it in an existing journal if you haven't journal already. I have a couple different journals, but I find it's harder to keep up different journals than if I put everything in one place. I do keep business things separate from personal and personal development things, but I'm trying to simplify and make it so I only have, I have a gratitude journal, I have a goals journal, I have a lessons learned journal, I have an awesomeness file. I have all these things, but sometimes it's more powerful to combine them all in one. So I'm working on creating my own. I just combine everything in one, or I have a place that I could capture things that I want to capture, and I don't have to, go to 5 or 10 different places to find something that I might be looking for. So number 1, start a journal. document. If our life's worth living, it's worth documenting, right? So just start noticing and documenting, hey, this happened today. I initially responded negative for 5 hours, and then I took a deep breath, or I did whatever, and I started to look for the positives, the solutions, and the lessons learned. And maybe then the next time you have a negative thought or a negative feeling, you change it instantly. And it kind of depends on what, oops, that was bad. Dropped my book. It depends on the situation, right? Some stuff that happens is only a little bit bad. Other stuff that happens in our lives is catastrophic, and it requires a lot more of our mental fortitude to deal with it. Number 2, I always ask, what would I say to a friend? If this was my best friend and it was happening to them and they asked me for advice, I always wait till people ask me for advice. Not always, not with my kids, but I attempt to wait till people ask me for advice. I would say, what would I say to a friend? And we need to do that with ourselves. We need to be a lot kinder and more self-compassionate and treat ourselves like a friend, not an enemy. Our negative voice in our head, that is really an enemy that's undermining us and reducing our confidence all the time. We need to be a cheerleader in our head, not an enemy. Number 3, say stop. I learned this one a long time ago. Either say, and I actually learned it as say cancel. So as soon as I notice a negative thought popping into my head, or a judgment, or a doubt, a worry, or a fear, or anything I don't really want to feel or experience more of, I say cancel. But you can say cancel, stop, boom, and blow it up. You can do whatever works for you. Number 4, change a negative to something neutral. Sometimes going from negative to positive is a big jump. And so if I take the negative and I just reach for something a little more neutral that feels a teeny bit better, it might even still be a negative, but it feels better than the negative that I'm feeling and experiencing, that's a move in the right direction. Remember the emotional guidance system? We always want to be moving up that. The same with our thoughts and feelings and beliefs. We always want to be moving in an upward spiral on that. Number 5, create an SOS file of positive praise. So, kind of like my awesomeness file, you can create an SOS file where you put in things that make you feel good. Maybe it's pictures of puppies. Maybe it's flowers. Maybe it's dried flowers or flowers that you've gotten. Maybe it's just a file or a box of trinkets that every time you see them, they remind you of some positive things that happened in your past, and they make you feel awesome. I, as a little girl, started doing this. I had a box in my room of little things and trinkets. I was always a trinket collector, ask my mom. But I always had a box of trinkets and things that I saved that made me feel good. So if something negative happened, if somebody was mean to me at school one day, yes, that did happen, I would just look in that box for a couple of minutes and then I would feel better and I would just forget all about the nonsense. Number 6, breathe. Of course, one of the fastest, easiest things any of us can do, and one of actually my favorite strategies in a difficult situation, is to just take a pause and just take a deep breath. Sometimes I need to take 10 deep breaths, but to take a deep breath to have a more calm approach to the situation. Calm and confident, of course. Number 7, talk to somebody. Sometimes we need to talk to somebody, maybe somebody that's been through a similar situation before or had a negative event like we're experiencing that can help us see it on the other side because they've already been through it. Number 8, follow a healthy lifestyle. We hear that everywhere, right? If you eat right, move, take care of yourself, breathe, drink plenty of water and fluids. Sometimes we need to take vitamins and supplements, whatever's right for us. Then when stuff comes up, when negative things happen, we're much more likely to handle them in a confident way or let the negative just roll off our back and go right into solution mode. Number 9, identify areas for change. Guess what? We all have areas in our life that we're not 100% satisfied with. So know what those areas are, and instead of beating yourself up when they pop up in your life or that you're seeing examples of them or things are happening to remind you of them, it's just an indication that it's time to change. So instead of getting upset or angry or mad, just say, okay, this is another signal from the universe or from God or whoever that I really do need to do something about this. It's really easy for us to procrastinate and put off change, especially if it isn't something that's in our face and we need to change right away. And negative thinking is one of those things. It's operating all the time on a subconscious level, and when it shows up in our face or in our lives, that means we need to pay more attention to it and do something about it. Number 10, surround yourself with positive people. I think many of us underestimate the power of this. You know, even positive people in our lives can have a bad day or be in a bad mood, and that impacts all of us. So I strive, and I don't always succeed, to be a positive energy around people, even if they're having a bad day. And sometimes I get my feelings hurt and I get negative too, but then I remind myself that it's just temporary and everything changes, and this too shall pass. 11, practice self-compassion. Hey, again, be nice to yourself. And number 12, be proactive with positive self-talk. So do things that automatically make you talk to yourself in a positive way. When I've shared before that when I brush my teeth twice a day, I do affirmations. Why? It helps me keep track of that I get all my teeth. And number 2, it helps to reinforce what I want to create in my life. That is an example of practicing positive self-talk and positive compassion. Affirmations are creating what I want. So every time I say them, even if I say them in the middle of the day or whenever, they are moving me from the negative to the positive and focusing on what I want. We always have to focus on what we want. But how many times I have to say that? And I need to remind myself of that every day, because it's easy to get sucked into the things that we don't want and not realize what we're even thinking about until a situation or something reminds us, oh, I guess I still have to clear that up and get rid of that. So one of my favorite techniques for changing negative to positive, one I've shared before, is the flip switch technique. So as soon as I notice that I'm thinking a negative thought, I flip the switch and I ask myself, what's the exact opposite of this? So if I'm thinking my jeans are too tight, I immediately think something that's the opposite of that. Oh, my jeans fit just fine, but they're a little snug, to remind me that I need to watch what I'm eating and watch how much physical activity or how much water I'm consuming, etc. And the other one is a more complicated technique. I think it came from NLP. I'm not sure who I first learned it from, probably Tony Robbins back in the 80s, but it's called the swish technique. And it's a visualization strategy where we go in, we're thinking something negative, we're looking at a situation negative, and we start to replace it by swishing and changing different things about it to positive. So we have a more positive, rosy colored perspective on the situation. Whenever we look at something from an optimistic standpoint versus a pessimistic standpoint, we're going to get a much more balanced picture, and it will help us to decide what do we really need to do in this situation. A lot of times we don't need to do anything. We certainly don't need to get upset about it, because I'd say 90% of the things that we worry about, or that situations that appear negative, end up self-correcting a lot of times without us having to do anything. So why are we getting ourselves all negative, worried, hot and bothered and upset over something that probably isn't going to really have a negative effect on us, especially not long term? So today, action item, just start becoming aware of the negative versus positive voice in your head and what is playing a bigger role for you right now. And if it's negative, start using some of these strategies. I guess that's 14 if you add the swish and the flip switch to positive, right? Any questions, hit me up. That's our topic for today. If I can help you in any way, ask. Otherwise, I'll be with you tomorrow. Go out, try this, be more confident. See the impact of being more positive and optimistic. See what kind of an impact that has on your day, your confidence, your life. All right, have a great day.